Hello, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to the first ever live television chronicles, the new segment on the channel that I'll be doing, which is all about television shows and shows on streaming, where me and me guests will select a show. And of course, we'll decide to review it. And I chose this particular show, which I'm quite excited about for many, many reasons. But to join me to talk about this show, I have two amazing guests. I have my good friend, Mr. Jerry Granville, aka Walter Ross, and of course, the man who was nicknamed the Professor, Mr. Daniel Miller.
Good evening.
Mhm. So, let's see. We have my flockers everywhere joining us today. Hello, my friend. Glad you
Oh,
could
okay.
join us.
Hello.
Yes. So this particular show that we had to look at, I know, Walter, you have a lot that you would like to see on this show. In the show we're talking about is none other than Midnight Mass, which is a show I introduced you to, Walter. So, what did you think when I first decided, why don't you view this show and let's review it?
Well, it was it's out of the blue because I mean, we was, I can't say we was just kind of bored, we was on a video chat, we was having fun, we just have our play lay, all that stuff, that good stuff. And you say, well, you want to just look along with the show that you suggested, I figured like, okay, I mean, something to shoot the breeze because I mean, hey, some of the shows nowadays are so woke and two, they're just like not really entertaining. I said, well, let me give it a shot now. So, and I figured with the words midnight mass, I figured like, man, it's gonna go on something on the religious tip. So I said, okay, let's watch it, let's do it. And the
Mhm.
opening of it, was just something I wasn't expecting to see, I mean, because and that's something I like with any, kind of arena film or whatever, starts out what you don't expect it to do. And from one watching it, I was like, as I gradually started watching, I was like, okay, where is this going? Where is it going to head to? And when we get to the point where it shows what it's really daunting on, I was like, oh, okay, this is talking about this. But as you get more and more invested in the show and with the characters, which is what I'm glad it is, what it does, you get more enriched with what is this really talking about? What is it really saying in terms of from
Mhm.
your point of view, like from my point of view? It's like that's an interesting story, that's an interesting way of saying it. And then when you see everything come to a head of what's being brought to you, I was like, wow, this is more than I ever expected, And and for me, I like shows or films or even printed media that does that is something unexpected. It's not what you expect to see happen. And I'm glad it went the way it does. Although, as we get into this stream, it's like something comes up that really reminds me of how damaging what they're bringing to us is. And it's not the vampirism. That's the crazy thing. It's not the vampirism that's the most damaging thing in here. It's something
Mhm.
more, I don't want to say sinister. It's something that Professor mentioned, psychological. So, but in all, the show is very, very well made and really structured, and I like it for what it is. I mean, I feel like it's
Mhm.
one of those things that I wish they do more of, but unfortunately, Hollywood, the way it is, it's all about sucking the dick of remakes. So that's what that is.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Very true. Remakes, sequels. There's no originality. The fucking well is truly dry at the minute when it comes to Hollywood. Mr. Daniel Miller, you said you had already seen this show previously. So,
Mhm.
what got you interested in wanting to see Midnight Mass?
Now, our introduction to Midnight Mass came when my family and I were sitting down at the TV and we're thinking, "Oh, this is boring. Let's see what's on Netflix." Then we're looking at, because we've already seen Mike Flanagan's
Mhm.
haunting of Hill House, and the Fall of the House of
Live
Usher.
Manor.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Blind Manor. That was another one. And everyone was like, "Oh, Mike Flanagan, he did Hill House. That was a good series. Let's see what Midnight Mass is about." And we watched it, and immediately it was an instant winner for us. And for me, I liked about it is that it took the setting of isolation. Like, for instance, you think of horror movies set in isolated. The first thing that comes to mind for me is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it in that way, and you look past the synopsis of, oh, it's a monster, and there are these people trapped in a monster in the middle of nowhere, it taps more in Midnight Mass, I feel, into the psychological aspect of the human minds, and we see all these different areas of the mentality of human beings. Like, for instance, we see moments of cynical or innocence or naivety. We have tyrannical
Mm-hmm.
ideologies in it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't speak tonight. So yeah, so it's
Ideologies.
that's it. Yeah, ideologies. So it's flavored with all of that. On top of that, there's a really, really good set of actors in this movie. They play the characters that they play. They play them really well. I can't find a single weak character in there upon rewatching it again recently. And I also loved the whole atmosphere and building of the suspense up until the grand reveal in the final
Mm-hmm.
act of the show, which was handled brilliantly.
Yeah, I remember how I got, interested in this show, and it comes back to when I was a huge fan of Mike Flanagan. I'd seen a number of his things. I had seen Gerald's Game, which is a good film on Netflix. Then I can't remember, there was something in between that and The Haunting of Hill House. There was something else that he did. Was it not Hush? I think he did Hush. I seen Hush as well, which the star of Hush is in this. And instantly I got grabbed by Mike Flanagan and the work that he does as a director and writer. In fact, he's like become the master of horror.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the rise of Murphy, who does American Horror Story. Ryan Murphy. He, I had never heard of Ryan Murphy before. And then suddenly he did all the American Horror Stories, which became super popular. And then he started doing other things outside of that, and he kind of carved a niche in the world of television horror. And then, of course, with Mike Flanagan, he's kind of went down a similar path, but I think he's a bit more successful with it. Where I think Ryan Murphy's kind of turned the corner and is doing other things outside of horror. He does a lot of dramas, where Mike Flanagan kind of has stuck to this lane as in is very successful at it. In fact, I believe he's now leaving Netflix and has signed a new contract with Amazon to do horror content for them. And of course, he's going to be doing the sequel or another reboot or a standalone of The Exorcist. Because as you know, Exorcist Believer didn't do as well. That was meant to be the start of a brand new trilogy. Exorcist Believer was the first one. The second one was going to be Exorcist Deceiver. Whether the plans have changed now, Mike Flanagan's on board, time will tell. But that's why I wanted to watch this. And very much like yous, what I found fascinating about Midnight Mass is it's not just a stereotypical vampire tale. There's a lot of psychology in this. There's a lot of you know religious, talk in this, a lot of talking about, the apostles, talking about faith, religion, belief, losing your faith. All of this is kind of in the forefront of this show, which I personally think is just a great way to go. I generally do. So to get into the show, let's talk a little bit about it. So Midnight Mass is an American gothic supernatural horror television miniseries created and directed by Mike Flanagan and stars Zach Gilford, Kate Seagal, Hamish Lineker, Samantha Sloan, Rahul Holly, Kristen Elenem, and Henry Thomas. The plot centers on a devout and impoverished island community that experiences supernatural events after the arrival of a mysterious priest. It was released on Netflix on September the 24th, 2021, and received positive reviews. So, where would you like to go with this, Mr. Daniel Miller and Mr. Walter Ross? So,
well, like everything, let's start at the beginning. Let's start where
that's the
we
best
get our
place to
foot in the
start.
door.
yes.
That's the
So,
only way we get
yeah. So, as you know, at the beginning of this story, you have one of the main characters. Zach Gilford is Ralph Lynn. He's a former venture capitalist who returns to the hometown of Crockett Island after spending 4 years in prison for killing a woman in a drunk driving crash. And if memory serves me right, opening just captures you straight away.
Yeah.
Especially there's like the scenes where he's, reminiscing about his past, doing the crash, and you actually have images of the girl who's all in his mind psychologically, kind of following around.
Yes, it's literally a sense of PTSD that he suffers from these things. Okay, what's up? All right. Yeah, it's the simple fact that he suffers from that PTSD, but also he's suffering from extreme amounts of guilt because in the opening scene where the emergency help is trying to revive her, he's saying, "Please, God, don't no, don't and she does die. This weighs heavy on his heart, and it's carried through the series because even when he was in prison, he gets that relapse of seeing that face covered in glass. I mean, that one shot where it's glass like literally sticking in her eye. I'm like, it's like, but that mindset is so soaked into his brain that he's just like, it's not so much he killed her, it's just that he took a life and he was in the wrong for doing it because he was intoxicated and he should have known better because his family are of religious kind, so he seemed like he should have known better, but unfortunately this is something that sticks with him all through the series until a certain point, and then it's like he gets some kind of revision of some kind of hope because he's always asking like should I even be here, should I something should let me know like why did God intervene, why did this and because he starts to doubt that faith of his, he starts to doubt these things, and then the moment comes when he gets just say changed, and he sees things in a different light, and when the time comes he says I'm not going to live my life like this. I'm going to do something that shows that maybe there's time for some sense of, what's the word, atonement for what I've done because I have done wrong, but I think I need to be really, in a sense, punished or say, hopefully have peace from all this because even though a person does the crime, and they do time for it, it doesn't mean they're released from the pain. They're not released from the suffering mentally. They're still holding on to that. And I feel that
Mhm.
this character, Riley, is such a interesting character. And I personally thought his character was going to be pretty much to the end, but as it turns out, how it ends is a different story.
Mhm.
That's why I say it's such
Yeah.
a different take on what it does.
Yeah. Like what I got from Riley's character and his story arc is that clearly he lives on this island that's isolated from the mainland, Crockett Island, where it's basically it's an uber religious community. It also feels very old fashioned. It kind of doesn't kind of it's isolated. It's kind of its own unique society and world. And he was an altar boy as a young boy, grew up in a super religious family community. He then obviously goes to the mainland as an adult and builds a life for himself, which he's probably not prepared for because they don't probably live the way the islanders did. And because of that, he was kind of suckered into like going out drinking and girls and all the things like what we probably would do. And it probably was overwhelming, and he got very drunk, went out one night, and this accident happened, which changed the course of his life. This tragedy, which he ends up in prison for, and then leaves, and decides to go back to the community to probably try and find himself again after being away for 4+ years.
Yeah.
So what's your take on this so far, Daniel Miller?
By taking it from Riley's introduction, we can see the sort of character arc that he's gotten. Like, for instance, he's at the side of the accident. He's being checked up by the EMTs. We see the victim that he accidentally killed on the other side of the road. And what I liked about this is that when he starts praying, "Our Father who art in heaven," the technician interrupts him and says, "While you're begging for forgiveness, ask God why it's always the kids who die and the parents don't," or something along those lines. And I find that's a really good piece of writing, but it's also a really interesting thing, an interesting perspective on that kind of thing. Like, for instance, if something terrible happens and one person prays for forgiveness or for a resolution, a peaceful resolution, yet there is no answer to those, yet there's no response on the other end of the phone, as it were. Which again, it's a really interesting concept, especially in this type of story arc where they start off with faith, they have an accident and they lose their faith, they go back and they go through this sort of trial where not only do they have to atone for what they've done, but they have to rediscover the person that they were before that happened in order to find the inner strength. And that also sets him up as the sort of not quite sure if he's more of a pariah or more of the black sheep of the family because of the vehicular crime, the drink and drive that he's been convicted of.
I think he's
Yes.
more black sheep in a sense, in my opinion. I mean, that's how I take away from it, though.
Yeah.
So to continue telling the story of the show, we'll just take a look at some images here. So of course this is the main cast.
Yep.
Which is, I love this image. I just love the glow. I love like the gothicness, the gloominess of it. Of course, this is Riley.
Here he is.
So yeah, so that is Riley. So he is played by Zach Gilford. The next character you have is Erin. So this is Erin Green. That is played by Katie Segal. She is Riley's childhood sweetheart, now a school teacher on Crockett Island and expecting a child.
Mm-hmm.
So that is obviously the second main cast member of this show. You then have the newcomer that comes to the island, which is the priest, who has kind of it's quite strange how he's on the island, and at the same time as Riley's returning to the island, we are then introduced to the new priest. So this is Hamish Linlake as Father Paul Hill.
Enigmatic.
The enigmatic new priest at St. Patrick's Church, who arrives to temporarily replace the aging Monsignor Pruitt.
Yeah.
But as we know,
we
don't actually see, correct. We then have, after that, we have Samantha Sloan as Bev Keane. Now, this, Bev Keane, what can we say about Bev Keane?
Bev Keane. I said to you, kind your goodness, that something was off about her when I first meet her, when I first see her, and I was just like, and I guess it's because of the acting and the writing of this character that has done so well that that's like there's something a little bit off about her, and I'm just like I'm not getting why she's a little off, but as the time goes by, you realize, oh, she's a little off. She's just a little nuts, But I feel that's because of her, maybe the religious, teachings and how it kind of influences, which is a good thing, but it's on a dark side of what it's going to,
Yes. So Bev Keane is a zealous, overbearing, and influential member of the church. And overbearing is not the word I would use.
Well, I guess that's an understatement for her. Yeah.
So we are joined by Mr. Tony at the Dead.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Tony?
You guys look so thrilled talking about this.
Oh, no.
We are.
More than you might know.
Daniel, I think this message is just for you.
Okay.
Don't move too quickly. There's something. Oh, for God's sake.
Oh, my God. Wonderful, Tony. Wonderful. Yes, it's.
Oh, thank you. There's nothing there this time.
Well, if it's your mom, you're okay. So.
Oh, God. Oh, God. No.
Okay.
Right. So the next character that we're going to talk about after we get rid of the spider is
you're killing me, Kevin. Now.
I'm losing this. I've got to be professional. Right. We're now talking about Raoul Carley, who plays Chief. No, it's not a chief. It's a sheriff.
It's a sheriff. I'm going to chief. He's a shepherd in a way you think about it. But yeah, sheriff.
Sheriff Hassan. So Crockett Island Muslim sheriff, generally accepted by the island's predominantly Catholic population, but viewed skeptically by many. So I found that very interesting how they kind of mixed the different religions, and there was kind of like, yes, he was accepted, but you could tell people were like walking on eggshells, and they were waiting for him to kind of say something or do something out of line for them to react. And I think a big component of like this kind of atmosphere around with him comes from Bev Keane, who has planted the seeds that he's blasphemous, that he's there to destroy the faith of the Catholic Church and all that crap.
And
which she just comes across as a complete and utter pain in the arse, like super cunt. Yes. So He
I
said
mean,
the
that
C
might be
word.
derogative, but I mean, that's the fact of how you're delivering this to other people. You know, you're shoving it down their throats. And the fact of the matter is that yes, he is a Muslim. He practices that, but they look at, as you say, they look at him because and that was the thing I was thinking too when I first started watching. I thought it was taking place before 9/11, but it turns out it's set years after that. And he does bring up about the fact about, you know, the bombing of 9/11 and everything. And they look at him like stereotypically the people who did the thing. It's like, well, they were Muslim, so since he's Muslim or practiced Muslimism, he might be a terrorist. He might be this. It's like, where do you get your head out your ass? How you feel that? And that's kind of a reflection of people today. They feel like if one particular group does something bad,
yeah, it's like representing society today of this fear because they believe all Muslims are Bin Laden. They all hate Americans. They all have a hate in their eyes towards, you know, Christianity and all that, which is not true. There's a lot of, you know, that was an isolated group that did a terrible thing. You cannot tarnish every Muslim with the same brush or any religious members, you know. You can't, you know, there's good and evil in all religions or all, you know, walks of life. So here we go. So the next character is Dr. Sarah Gunnan, the town's local doctor and Erin's close friend. So she was a very, very interesting character.
her story arc is much more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. The next character is Alex Esso as Mildred Gunnan, who I'm assuming is meant to be like.
I mentioned to you, Kevin, that when I first saw her, I was like, "Oh my God, you can tell this person's just a young person with makeup on and everything." I'm thinking like, "Okay, this." I'm like, "Where are y'all going with this?" You know, that's a trope I've seen many, many times. But this is where I say, if you just sit down and watch this show, you'll find out why she looks the way she looks. And then as the show goes, you're like, oh, there's a reason why they're showing this. And then you see the turnaround of the aging process. It's like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Then there it is, the de-aging process.
Yeah.
She's like and you want to know the interesting fact? The actress that's playing the mother. Yeah, she's playing the mother of the character we saw previously. That actress is actually older. She's actually older than this actress that's playing the mother. But like that.
Yeah, that is true. Yes, and then you do have a couple of other characters. You have is it what's his name? Oh, you have Robert Longstaff as Joe Colley, who is the town drunk. Oh, that's not him. This is the town drunk.
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, this wasn't that him? Oh, okay, no, that was okay. That's right.
Yeah, and then of course you have this character whose name I've forgotten.
Yeah, his name. I don't even know if I remember his name.
I think it was Rut or Rudd. And he is like the handyman of the island. He keeps all the boats going. He fixes things in the church. Matt Bridle as Sturge, as Sturge, the island handyman. So his name is Sturge. And, you know, like we said, Riley comes onto the island. He's there to kind of rebuild his life from scratch, going back home to his family. You're then introduced to this charismatic priest who is there to replace or to cover the the priest that
Monsignor.
was on the Monsignor who was there prior to him, Monsignor Prut. But then there's kind of like people are they're wary of him, that they don't know how to take him, and then all of a sudden, as Sunday Mass is happening, events start transpiring around them, miracles begin to happen. Bev is like having, she's in ecstasy that she's now with this Monsignor who is like a gift from God. And, also religious, dialogues being, progressed throughout the show. There's people who probably had no faith that are now have faith. There's people who have questioned faith are suddenly now they have their faith back. And it's all due to the fact that when he arrived, all these mysterious events begin to happen. But at the same time as these mysterious miracles are starting to happen, there is a lot of darkness suddenly starting to swarm the island. Like when the priest first arrives, he arrives in darkness. And you see a crate, and he knocks on the crate, and there's a knock from the inside of the crate. And then when he's in the church, he only ever seems to come out when necessary, and stuff like that. And then the most chilling thing and the upsetting thing is you did have the town drunk, who this lovely guy here, alcoholic, all this, who had a beautiful dog, whose dog is suddenly found mauled to death. And as you know, I am a huge cat lover. So this did not go well for me.
Oh yes, I bet a lot of people who are pet owners was just like, "Oh, that's such a blasphemy right there." Like, no.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
To quote Joe Bob Riggs, you can kill as many people as you want to, but you never kill a pet. People get upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. So killing a cat is no go for me. That is right, Mr. Tony the Dead.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes,
Not
he's doing
allowed.
his best. He's doing his best Darth Vader impressions at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
No. Yes, very much so.
Yes. So all these strange events begin to happen, and then suddenly, everyone's suddenly like onto the priest. They're like, "Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing." The church has never been, it's packed. You cannot get people not going to church. It's absolutely rammed. But there is people who are skeptical, and one of the people that is skeptical is Riley. For very good reason. So, Mr. Daniel Miller, do you want to continue the story?
Yes, indeed. So, of course, Riley is skeptical. And of course, Riley is skeptical, so too are a few other people. But the number of people growing in terms of believing the new priest is gradually increasing, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, surely this must be a sign. Everything that's going wrong is a sign that we are starting to get our faith back," and that sort of thing. But during this, of course, there is a storm, which occurred. Of course, after the storm, we had all of the dead cats. But in that storm, let's see, Riley, that was his name, Riley, he sees a figure of a person moving in the storm, which he thinks is the old Monsignor Pruitt. Of course, he goes out into the storm to investigate, and who he thinks is Monsignor Pruitt is gone. Of course, not everyone believes him because of the story that the new father told those who attended church, that Monsignor Pruitt is in hospital on the mainland. If that's the case, then who is this figure that Riley saw in the darkness? And just when things couldn't get any worse, Joe, he's the I think he's the drunk who, yes, he's the drunk who gets out of prison in the first episode, and he has a dog waiting for him. The dog suddenly dies eating food at a festival that's held annually on the island, and of course Joe suspects the priest Bev is responsible for this and has an axe to grind with her. Of course, everyone's saying, "Now let's not be too hasty here. Let's just be rational about this. It's very sad this happened, but let's look at this from a reasonable angle." Meanwhile, Riley, he goes off to an AA meeting with Father Paul in the town center.
Yeah.
And then he starts to basically curse out God, basically saying that he's forsaken him, that he didn't help him during the accident, which got the other person killed, and thinks that there is no God, basically, and holds resentment towards that. And that's why he's lost his faith. And Father Paul tries to help him see otherwise.
And this is right at the end of the first episode. This is where you know something else is on the island, because you're then introduced, you know, I think it's the dealer, the island drug dealer. He's suddenly attacked by an unseen entity.
Yeah.
And
what's cool about this is, I was just gonna add this. It's a simple. It's just a simple effect where he sees something, and it's like the cats when you see them in a dark way. You see their eyes, you know, but you think it's a cat, but all of a sudden it stands up with the eyes rising, and it's like, okay, that's too chilling for me. And I'm thinking, and I was thinking to myself, why are you walking inside this house? You know, it's dark. I wouldn't do that. You know.
Well, don't forget, you and me, we were watching this and we seen like the darkness, and you can hear creaking and you can hear noises, and you and me, when we were watching this together, were like, well, you would just walk past. You wouldn't investigate anything because you just haven't got a clue what's there.
Yeah.
And
look.
Was it better than Hill House?
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I think Hill House is more scary. And I think Hill House has more jump scares. The thing with Midnight Mass is, I think Midnight Mass is a slow burn. I think the first 3 episodes drag. And then it's when you get to the 4th episode and you see events starting to transpire, it slowly builds up to this amazing final. I think the last episode is an amazing final. It really took me surprise. Everyone get cracking on that thumbs up button.
Right. Like I say, crack.
So, Walter, where would you like to go next with the story?
Okay, well, just partly while all these events are happening and whatnot, you know, and Riley's doubted his, you know, faith. He doesn't believe God. And there's these little things such as the healing power of God. It's moments where people are starting to have these effects of, you know, these miraculous miracles happen. Like one of the kids on there, Lizzie, he's in a wheelchair, and this is because of Joe. You know, I'll just skip around on that. He apparently put her there through the sense of, I think, she has been in that wheelchair for a minute because of a gun accident, which was done by him. Well, she's one of the people who are experience these miraculous miracles. She's able to walk again. You know, something that seemed like it shouldn't be able to, but science never know. But through God, I mean, since it's happening in the church, it is a miracle. It's a wonderful thing. And another person. Go ahead.
I think this is why it's a miracle.
Yes. And see, at the time, you don't realize that when they're in church and they're doing the body and the blood of Christ, situation where you take the blood and everything and taking the bread and all that. The priest is secretly, putting in the blood of this angel of peace in the wine. Yeah. Well, yes. Angel. Yeah. And put it into the cup, little bit, and it miraculously heals people's certain deficiencies. Like Riley's parents, the mother, she's able to see now without her glasses on, and the father, he's suffering from back pains, but now he's not feeling so much pain anymore. So certain people are suffering from miraculous miracles, but we don't know what happened. We don't know why this happening, and we find out as the story goes, this is not such much. It's a miracle, and you want to believe it, but you find out the priest has been spiking the wine, the blood of Christ, in order for this to happen, for people to, really get the sense of, rejuvenation in some sense. And this is where you realize that, as the story goes, trust me, it is. It's very, it's a slow burn, but it's very interesting. And the thing about this is the priest, he's not doing this necessarily just to heal people. He wants to do good, but his own agenda is something more miraculous than we thought it is, because he's doing this to help someone else.
Yeah.
And you find out that with who it is, and it's like, I won't say too much, but I'll speak I'll probably give it to Daniel, because you'll kind of, bring in why he's doing these things, because there's somebody who actually, as I said before, reverses time with himself. So.
Yes. Like the kind of thing that happens throughout this is, you think this is all about Riley's story, trying to undiscover this mystery about all these miracles happening on the island. You've got the priest who's performing these miracles with this hidden secret hand by this entity that we're introduced to. You've got Bev, who's now manipulating the Monsignor and basically feeding into his kind of obsession of this event that happened to him in the past that changed his life forever. And she's kind of using him as a way to get her own will over the people on the island. So you originally assume that the Monsignor, the priest, is the main villain, but it kind of isn't him. He's just a vessel or a pawn for what we now know is the angel. Yes. And she, even though she deep down probably knows that all of this is wrong, because she's super, religious and obsessed with faith in the church, in the gospel, in the Bible, she's willing to allow this all to happen, to basically to infect the entire island with these miracles and, drinking, the blood within the confines of the church. Then that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that you've got the character of Erin, who's the school teacher who's pregnant, that suddenly loses her baby. The doctor starts investigating why she's lost her baby. And while this is happening, she discovers that there's something wrong with people's blood, and that it burns in daylight. And you put the dots together, and she realizes that there's a contaminant in people's bloods that is being passed through by something on the island, which you then later figure out is the blood in, you know, in the wine that's being given out at church. And now anyone that goes to that church is infected. And it's all down to the Monsignor and Bev's influence over him, whose mind was clouded previously because of the events that happened off the island.
That's right.
To now him being super kind of influenced by not only Bev, but the angel, who is the ultimate evil in this, who is bending everyone's will to his doing.
And see, we have to remind ourselves, you know, this is a point where I should say that, you know, the priest was telling, or kind of suggesting to Riley, you know, you can come sit with me, you know, and, you know, have a talk and have yourself, you know, kind of say why you feel this way about your religion or your faith and everything. And it's interesting is the juxtaposition that both him and Joe are both individuals who have done something that, you know, they feel guilt about. And this is the reason why they're in the position they are. So they start these sit downs with the priest. But as time progresses, you realize that Riley finds out that the priest is, yes, he's not all he seems to be, because when he mentions something about when as Joe goes to him about something one night, and he said, well, I'll come back another time, you know, and the priest starts, you know, hugging. It's like Joe, and Joe's saying, what the hell are you doing? And he accidentally falls down, he gets hit, and he starts pretty much sucking his blood, you know, he starts doing that. It's like, okay, this is, you know, this is bad. Then when we see him and Joe together again, the priest mentioned, say, well, he went offshore. He went onto the mainland to see his sister, and Riley, and you can see it on Riley. You see it on Riley's face, like instantly say, his sister. No, you know, it's like, and he tells his mom, say, you know, pray for me because I know something about the priest that no one else does. And he says, you know, that the priest lied to me. He lied. No, priests are
and
not.
why would a police lie?
Yes.
And don't forget, priests are meant to stay celibate as well.
That's the other
Catholic priests are meant to stay celibate, and as we know, there is a link between the priest and this character.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the point now where it's going to be hard to keep telling the story without spoilers. So we might as well head into spoilers.
We're already in
territory.
spoilers.
Yeah.
So basically, let's talk about when O'Reilly's pass. We see it. It's right at the beginning of the show. Bang. Drunk. Has this hit and run accident. Goes to prison for 4 years. He's now, you know, he served his time. He's now coming to the island to rebuild his life. You now have the priest who's mysteriously arrived. You finally get a flashback episode with this character, with the priest. Or that you don't realize is it the priest, because you are introduced to the priest or this character who is Monsignor Pruitt, who goes off the island, goes, I guess, on like a mission, ends up trapped in a sandstorm, and ends up taking refuge in some cave. When he's taking refuge in this cave, he doesn't realize that there's something living within the confines of the cave. In the cave, and this thing suddenly shows its appearance to Monsignor Pruitt, and bang, just like what we've seen on the island, he's then taken down, and this thing feeds on his blood, and then this thing, which we believe is the angel, then makes him drink his blood, and after drinking his blood, a day later, after he's fully recovered, it is finally revealed that the actual Monsignor Pruitt is actually the same man.
Yes.
He's Monsignor Hill,
He
who
has
is now
become
younger and rejuvenated, and as the mother of the doctor starts drinking the communal wine, suddenly her illness starts to fade.
slowly.
And as it fades, she begins to get younger and younger, till, as you can see at the bottom photo, she's this beautiful young woman again.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's then revealed, of course, that the angel is no angel at all. He is, in fact, Nosferatu.
Right.
He is one of the undead. He is a vampire.
Yes.
He's one of the creatures of the night.
Mm-hmm.
He sure is.
Oh my God! See, that's almost a juxtaposition of saying, yes, you're an angel with wings, but it's more demonic than anything. You're a
Yeah.
devil in disguise.
I actually like this entendre with this being an angel, but we know it's not really an angel. But in some twisted way, it actually is.
Mm-hmm. He's a dark angel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So once this is revealed that he is a vampire and he is basically pulling the strings behind Monsignor Hill, who's really Monsignor Pruitt, who after he's revived initially, he's overwhelmed, thinking this is a gift from God, this is an angel. He but then he starts doing all these callous things, like he brings them over to the island in darkness. People start dying, animals start dying. He then starts getting desperate himself by when he starts killing people and drinking their blood to survive, and he's kind of let go of all of his the things that would be moral, and he's kind of out of desperation. He's like being stubborn, he's being foolish, he's kind of trying to pretend that what he's doing is messages from the Bible, and he's following the teachings of God. And obviously, as he does start to doubt himself, you've got Bev in the background who knows what's happening is wrong, but she's just feeding into this religious, language and fully pushing it out there to basically keep control of the situation. So I don't know who's worse, Bev or the angel.
I'd say Bev.
I was going to, yes.
It's when you think about it. Because when you think about it, Bev is the more of the evil, because she's more into the tyrannical side, to the point where she may as well be a dictator. Whereas the angel, yes, it is evil in of itself, but it's not evil to the extreme, as Bev is.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is, as you say, we know what the angel is, but when we see it through what a human does, when it puts in that mindset, they become something far worse than what the angel, because
Yes.
you know the right and wrong, but you are playing into that mindset of, this is something that should be in hand. This should be enforced. This should be there. Like, no, that's not.
It's exactly like what you said right at the beginning of this, Walter. The angel, aka the vampire, is literally just the side piece of this story.
Mm-hmm.
This is all about faith. It's all about religion, belief systems. It talks a lot about the apostles and having faith, and whether the extremes you're willing to go to the things you believe in, or
Right.
the things you're willing to do to kind of manipulate people into believing a certain ideology of faith. we've talked about it earlier, kind of that's what's happening in the world right now when it comes to the politic, the politics of, yous have just had an election, you've just had an inauguration, you've got different sides that are trying to make you believe their way is right, or this is right, or you shouldn't be doing this. You should. It's up for interpretation, but at the end of the day, it's what you believe, your beliefs, your eternal beliefs, your spirituality, and in this, it's all about somebody who is trying to twist their views and make their views simply the only views that are right.
But isn't that uncanny? That is the case right now, because recently, I'm pretty sure both of you saw there was a priest that was at the inauguration, and she pretty much says, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, try to have, don't be so hard on these individuals or these individuals. It's like, the thing is, you're a priest. You're supposed to speak the words of who is God. You're supposed to be preaching the gospel. You're not supposed to be preaching your own personal agenda. And as you said, it's like, it's how you take it, and as it is. And as I said before, we keep hearing again and again and again this monologue of people saying, well, this is the reason why, this person says the best thing and this person, it's like, okay, you're getting two different sides of the story, but there's only one truth to all this. And it's blinding so many people from what the truth really is. And it's funny how it's weird. Now that I think about it, it's very weird after watching this show, how that is really, really the grounds of what's going on right at this minute as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it's uncanny, because it's like,
hence why I thought it was a great idea to do this show.
Right.
And I believe this show is about the Catholic faith, about sins, about forgiveness, and it's about you having, you could be Catholic, I could be Catholic, you could be atheist, and it's about also respecting each other's beliefs without shoving it down the throat and preaching. Just be respectful and mindful of each other. And you can believe in what you believe, but I believe what I believe, and let's not, let's just respect one another, respect our beliefs, and just be good with one another.
Yeah,
and this show, and the thing is with this show, it does all of that, but there's also many influences from other films and shows in this. Straight away, the whole island vibe gives me Salem's Lot.
Because I thought, I don't know why, I thought at first this series was kind of Stephen Kingish in a sense, So it's like, this seems a lot more like Stephen King a little bit, and it turns out this is original stuff from Mike Flanagan. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
But you can clearly see where his influences have come from.
Yeah. Especially the final act. There's an old page from Nosferatu. Well, I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys have seen it, and you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So this thing, like you said, the angel definitely could represent Barlow from Salem's Lot. The character of Bev could definitely represent who was the character who helped Barlow? Could represent the version of Straker. Another thing that I noticed throughout this is when people are slowly turning into vampires, you don't necessarily see fangs or anything. They don't do the gory side of things like that. They show you it from like a more human perspective. But I love the fact when they were transforming and waking up, you saw them with like the glow in their eyes, which is similar to when you're seeing scenes in Salem's Lot, where in the darkness you could see the glow of the eyes. Stuff like that. Even when they're finally first transformed and have the first awakening as a vampire, they have like that glow sensation from the eyes around the room.
Yeah, I do like the more human twist on them once they've been turned into vampires. Like, for instance, you have Riley's parents who meet up again after the chaos has happened, and it's like, oh, you're covered in blood. It's like, no, I didn't kill anyone. It's my blood. That sort of thing, showing that there is still so much
Humanity.
humanity in there, that they're not all out for the kill. They're not all driven by a lust or a thirst for blood. There's still remnants of their original selves in these vampiric forms, which is also a bit more of a heartbreaking twist on the vampirism process.
The thing I think, once you get past the reveal of Hill, and you see Bev's control over him, things then take a very nasty turn when, Riley goes into the church to confront Hill, and the angel appears and then takes him down, bites into him. It's then revealed he is now a vampire, but he doesn't want to live like this. He served 4 years in prison. He wants to repent his sins. He wants to live a peaceful life, but he knows nobody will believe him, and that they'll just think he's on drugs, or he's had a relapse, or there's something not quite right with him. Until he decides to take Erin out on the boat, and at the end of the episode is your first kind of major wow moment.
Yeah,
where the sun rises after he's retold the events that had happened, and he basically bursts into flames and turns to ash.
I mean, for him, I think it's a redemption play on his part. Because just before this, when the sun hits them the first time, you feel like, oh, maybe that's just a playaway. And then when you see his victim in full, without the scars, it's just like he smiles, and it's almost like in almost a soul or angelic version of her. And
because he's filled with guilt and remorse for ending some young person's life. And throughout the first few episodes, you do see her, but she looks like the accident. She's got blood all over her. She's got the glass in her face, and he just cannot get away from that image. And when he decides,
but I was just gonna say, when he does this, when he sees her all cleaned up and everything, I feel, in my interpretation, that he's accept his, not his sacrifice, but his apology, and it forgives him for what he's done. And to me, I think that gives him a sense of peace, that he accepts that, and it's like, yeah, and then when we go back, we see Green screaming, and we see him just burst into flames. It's like going to ash, and it's like, well, there you go, and it's that moment right there. It's like all that he told her was true,
Yeah, but the biggest shock when this happens is that you think Riley's going to be the main character. The way it looked and was set up is he was the one, now that he knew about the Monsignor's past and how he's now influenced by the angel. Bev's slowly continuing to progress with this, the obsession, and kind of twisting it so he stays believing that the angel is an angel when he's not, and she deep down probably knows he's not, but it's also keeping her in power. And it's like a little cult by this point on the island. When he sacrifices himself, everyone's in shock, because it's like, well, we thought he was going to be the main hero of the story, but he had to sacrifice himself, because if he didn't do it in front of somebody, no one would have believed that this thing's happening.
Yeah. So he did the greater good, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And this is where things change again, because then you are introduced to, Erin, the doctor, and her mother become the heroes of the story. And throughout the story, the they're trying to get off the mainland. They cannot get off the mainland because now that virtually half the island is in belief of these miracles happening, they decide on Easter Sunday to do a big midnight mass, basically. When they do the midnight mass, this is where everything's going to be revealed. The angel is going to reveal himself. The Monsignor is going to tell the truth of who he truly is. And he wants everybody to sacrifice themselves to join him and to join the Lord and to join the angel. But as this mass event takes place and people slowly start drinking this drink, which has, I think, poison in it, cyanide or something, Bev's taking it all in. She's manipulating the crowd alongside the Monsignor. Everyone's dying around them. And then as they are coming back to life, they are getting that initial first hunger. And the ones that didn't sacrifice themselves and don't believe in it or are just scared, they start killing them. They start mauling on them.
Yeah.
And obviously the sheriff is a policeman. And sorry, the sheriff, who is Muslim, was trying to save his son, but his son is now being manipulated and sacrifices himself and drinks the poison, and he has to watch his son die in front of him. The mother gets the gun and shoots the angel. She's then lifted out. He then flies into the mother, lifts her out, takes her out of the church, and there's only maybe 3 or 4 people left alive that aren't affected. So this is like the massacre of St. Paul's, I believe.
Well, this is something I wanted to bring up about. It's like St. Paul's, but this is something that goes back to something I said with human history.
That's a brutal, Tony, brutal.
Well, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything about that, but I will say that if you've ever heard of a man named Jim Jones, this is something similar to what happens here. And this is what I saw when I saw this. You know, there was a massacre. Well, there was a mass suicide that happened back in '78. He was a religious individual, but I think he took it to the point of extent that it was foreboding and very, just as something that the professor said, tarantula in the sense of, I'm manipulating so-called God's will. And he took all these people, 900 followers, mind you, over 900 followers, took them to Jonestown. It's like in Africa or something like that. I can't remember the exact, but it's Jonestown, the town that he went to, so they couldn't get away. And he had them all sacrifice themselves in terms of suicide themselves by taking poison for a religious act, And as I watched in the film, that clicked in my mind. That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what happened in human history. Something in human history happened where someone was on the cusp of manipulating God's word, the gospel, and actually not even forcing the people, but actually manipulating them, mentally, saying, if you do this, you become something far greater than what it is right now. And these people, these sad souls, sacrifice themselves, believing, listening to somebody who's just bending their own will and not even realizing that they were being conned into this. And this is what's happening in this scene here at the church when this massacre happens, And it's like, this is just a reflection of human history. And this is the reason why I say the vampirism, that the vampire, that's not even the real threat. The threat is human thought process, human beings.
Psychology.
Psychology. Yes, thank you. It's that drives them to do what they're doing right now. And that's the villain right there.
It's like false ideologies and psychologies and manipulation, and basically there was 127 people on Crocodile Island, and basically what the Monsignor, what Monsignor Hill's done, he's made this like a cult. And this was like a mass cult suicide, the massacre. And after it's happened, he immediately gets a reflection after being shot, gets shot in the head by the mother, and then obviously bang. It's kind of a wake-up call. He then looks around and sees the blood, sees the events that transpired, and goes, this is not God's will. This is God. God would not want people to sacrifice themselves like this.
Yeah.
God believes in life eternal and all this, and this is not the way to go about it. And this is when Bev suddenly, like, she basically takes over. Says, you are not the prophet, you are not the man that is leading, this society. And basically, she turns her back on him, and he's just left to sit in the church. And it's during this time that the chaos continues. And now this is when I think this show highlights like more the horror element and gives more influence to like Salem's Lot, where you see the townspeople running around the island, going into people's houses that didn't go to the church, and they break into the houses and they start, mauling on the people and converting them into vampires. It's very dark and brutal.
This is the true horror of this show. I mean, and as I say again, you think it's the main antagonist, which is the angel. It's like he's just part of it. No, the main villain is human psychology, and how when they get a taste of something that's bad for them, they take it and they run with it.
It's like an addiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, when things get really bad, there's a fire, and the next thing, the whole island is set alight. There's fires everywhere. There's people running around. The church is set alight. Due to so basically, when the whole island goes up in flames, what next happens is that the survivors of the massacre, who don't want to be converted into vampires, that don't want to live this, basically entrapment of a life, realize that this isn't just going to stay on the island. So the doctor and Erin and her mother decide there's only one way off the island, and it's the boats. So they decide to set fire to the boats, to destroy the boats so no one can get off the island. Because they are now converted into vampires and it's a small island, they decide, right, we need to end this because this is not going to go away. So they then start setting fire to the community centre, which has got thousands of beds in it that Bev set up for them to sleep in through the daylight. That gets sacrificed. And this part breaks my heart, because as they are all getting distracted with the events transpiring, there you have Erin. Erin's in the community centre where the sheriff is talking to Bev, who shoots him in the side, and he starts bleeding out. Erin comes out of the community centre after he's distracted everyone to basically go inside and set fire to it, set fire to the beds, blow the whole fucking thing up.
Yeah.
When all that happens, as she leaves the church, well, it's dinner time for the angel. The angel grabs her, picks her up, drops her down, and begins to feed on her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's lying there emotionless and, taking it all in. The son, who turned his back on his faith, his Muslim faith, and his father, goes to protect his father, finally goes and protects the dad. And as he sees the dad, he then picks up the torch and realizes what they're doing isn't right. Throws the torch into the community centre and sets it alight.
Yeah.
And then he slowly takes his dad and walks to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where there's one final bit. There's only one place to hide, and it's in the church.
But
so Bev is basically telling everyone, commanding everyone, we need to get to the church. But as you get to the church, the priest is there who's now had
the realization.
He's now had a wake-up call, realization of what they've done is completely not in the Bible. This is not God's will. This is something sinister. While he's talking to Bev and everyone outside, the doctor is inside, setting up, ready to set the church alight. As the priest approaches her inside, he starts talking to her. And as he's talking to her, he reveals basically he's not been truthful, that he hasn't been celibate, he hasn't been truly an honest man his entire year is part of like the clergy of the church. That he in fact had somebody he loved. And the person he loved was her mother. And then it's revealed that he is actually her father. Which is just another kaboom moment.
Yeah.
But that was like a slap in the face, because I realized, because I'm seeing her, the mother, get younger and younger, but I'm like, why is she why particularly her? And then when you find out, it's like he's like I say, he comes full circle with saying, I did this all for you. I did this so that I can see you in a rejuvenated state to be together again. His love was the catalyst that drove him to do what he did, that led to this catastrophic event on the island, and it just got out of hand, because he never meant any of that really to happen, but it was really all for her. True enough, he loved his daughter too, but he loved the mom just as much, and he did it for her to be together, in youth. But as it turns out, that old saying, hell is paved with the way of good intentions. This is what happened,
Yes. And, as this is happening and this big reveal has happened, you think she's going to kind of forgive him and kind of everything's starting to make sense, when suddenly kaboom. She gets shot. Who does she get shot by? I originally thought it was going to be Bev.
Yeah. No, it was the handyman. I'm like
the fucking handyman.
Yep. I'm like, can no one catch a break here, man?
No, you root for these characters, but everywhere they go, there's always someone there about to kill them, and most of the time they do succeed in killing them off.
They very do. It is kind of mind-blowing. Like, I just assumed that was going to be Bev, because Bev was the one who had the gun outside originally, and then it turns and it's not Bev, it's the handyman, which I was like, you're a shit handyman.
Right?
Yeah.
Shitty handyman.
You are a shitty handyman to shoot the doctor. And the thing I liked about it is, after she gets shot, he attacks the handyman, throws him out of the church, returns. The mother then sees the daughter. She's absolutely bawling her eyes out, runs up to her. The dad goes to save her life by giving her his blood to turn her into a vampire, and she refuses.
Yeah, she spits it
She
out.
doesn't want to be turned. She doesn't want to live like this. And then, next thing you know, what ends up happening is the daughter is carried by her father and the mother to the favourite place that she used to like to go to as a child.
She sets the church on fire, as they're leaving, she knocks the candle down, and it's like, there you go. You know.
Never start to like any of the characters in these shows.
Well, some of them are very interesting. So now that the church has been set alight, there's nowhere to go.
go.
And
Because
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, this is the interesting part about this is that Bev, thinking that she's now taken over everyone and got them, all set to do something. She says, set ablaze all the buildings on the town, because we find out that this community once had a fire that happened to it before. And, this is like hundreds of years ago. But she said, we burn it down now, it'll come up again.
Yeah, as it's burning. Yeah, because originally when the fire first starts, she's like, well, the handyman's like, well, we need to put the fire out, and she's like, well, no, we'll let it keep burning, because the only thing that survived the last time there was a fire on the island was the church, and she just assumes the same thing's going to happen. Little did you know, the very priest she loves and is protecting and is manipulating is the one that sets fire to the church, which I think's like a come up moment. It's like, it's like a karma for our behavior.
It's almost like a big fuck you. I was like, yeah, you ain't getting this.
Yeah, and as all that is happening, obviously Erin unfortunately was dragged down by the angel, but as she's getting the blood drank out of her neck, this very much felt like the scenes out of Nosferatu.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So basically what's happening here is she's wanting the vampire to drink her whole. But as he's feeding off her, she's slowly starting to, with a knife in her hand, cut through his wings. And because she's done that, as he stands and he leaves, when it's getting lighter and the sun's about to rise. The sun is about to fucking rise. And as it's about to rise, he realizes he's been basically duped. His wings are so badly damaged he cannot fly, and he needs to get to the mainland. So he takes off to go to the mainland. Everybody who's been converted realizes there's nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. But instead of being in fear or in panic, they all come together as a community. And they all stand near the church, near the town hall, as a group singing an amazing, beautiful hymn. And that's one thing I loved about this, is the music in this, and the music, hymns and songs. It was haunting at times. It was emotional at times. It really added to the depth of the situations throughout the course of the episodes.
I agree. Especially where the sun's rising, they're all singing in unison, and it gets to the end of the chorus, and you can't help but feel sad or sorry for this whole island full of people. And as the sun rises, it's almost a bit like like a mercy or a blessing in disguise. But
well,
it's also
no, I disagree, because I didn't feel sorry for this bitch.
No, I didn't feel sorry for her. No,
well, I didn't feel
sorry for. I mean, no one felt sorry for Bev. Let's face it.
No.
Fuck you, Bev.
Yeah.
No. But the two people that I really did feel sorry for, I mean, not to say that they weren't the only ones, was Riley's parents. They got turned, but they never fed. Even yeah. We hey dude, we fuck all around this one, so I can't help that. But no
profanity.
Yeah, wait, yeah, what? But
no.
But no, Okay, let me stop. Okay. The point I'm making is that these parents, Riley's parents, they keep that sense of humanity with them, regardless that they've been chained. And even the father, the husband, tells the wife, he say, "Yes, I feel it too. I feel that burning inside of me, wanting to feed, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to convert. I'm not going to lay myself to do these things." And she's the same way. She's like, "I love you. We're going to just whatever happens next. We're just gonna ride it out." And like I say, when the time comes, when the sun is rising, they the one to start the singing of the hymn, and it realized like, hey, let's go out with a last sense of humanity, regardless that we turned into monsters, and know that
Did you not?
this is not exactly what we are.
What I found with it is that those who are like Bev, who are sort of devoted Christians and devoted to their religion, who are like a cult, whether they were converted or not, that's just who they were. Where
Yeah.
at the beginning, even the mother was like that. Like when she told her, when Erin told her that Riley had killed himself, had sacrificed himself, and she said, "He's dead." She was like, "You're a bad person." She was like saying, "Why are you doing this to us? God loves you," and all of this. But when she seen the massacre in the church, she just instantly knew it was wrong. And she suddenly changed. And she became not a better person, but she showed her real humanity.
Yeah.
And it's like the Monsignor Hill, when he seen the massacre happen, he was shocked. Came through it all, he realised everything that had happened was wrong. He realises this isn't actually what he should have been there to do. And the tragedy at the end of this whole tale is that it's a giant sacrifice, because as the sun rises, everybody takes their last breath and turns to dust.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, the parents of Riley, they embrace themselves with that. Like, well, this is our last time. At least we're together. It's sad, but it's beautiful at the same time.
Yes.
Not something you want to see, but it is that.
And another great part I loved in this is you have the two episodes where you have Riley. And when Riley was alive, he talked about what he thought happened when you died. And you had like that montage. And then you had the scene when he did die, and like we've seen, the girl he had, had the hit and run accident, she was now whole again, smiling, forgave him, and then he turned to dust. When it come to Erin, you had the flashback sequence where she's telling him when he was alive what happened when you die, and as she was dying. And it's a beautiful moment where you hear her talking, and she's talking about you go back to being whole again, you go back to the cosmos, you were all together again, and how that's happening as they're singing, and then they turn to dust.
Yeah, I feel that to me, it's not so much. I know it's a sad moment, but it's kind of a rejuvenating moment for having a sense of peace, knowing that okay, we're about to go, we're about to leave this world, but we leave in this world in a better sense of mind, that we don't go out as the worst versions of ourselves. We're the so-called better angel than the angel. You know,
Yeah.
I feel that that's the beautiful take on that, because we don't want them to be. I thought you said more vampires.
But Tony, this is vampires with a twist.
That's right.
But you get though. I mean, it's finally showing that niche of knowing that you do not have to die with the mindset of being that what you have been turned into. It's like some of us are dealt with a bad blow with anything in life, you know, as human beings. You know, we might be born blind, we might be born deaf, you know, we might be working of our legs. You know, we might be any of these things, you know, but we take the better part of ourselves and make the world surroundings around us a little bit better than what it is. And I feel that was the thing right there, the callous with them. The townsfolk finally seen it done bad. They done the worst of them, who they are. But knowing that you don't have to die with a sense of, I've done wrong, but I can atone for what I've done. You know, I can show that I do have a human side to myself, even though I've been turned into something far worse than what I am. But you know what? Better yet, let me rephrase that. Human beings are always going to be worse than some of the things that we see in the world. Regardless, we are going to be the worst of any monster. But showing that compassion for what they should be than what they could have been if they hadn't been turned or anything like that. So that's the thing I'm trying to do.
And as the show ends, if we go right back to the beginning when the miracles first began, she could walk again, little Erin, not Erin, Lizzie, she could walk, and as they're sitting in the boat after the island, this dust begins to fall like ash, hinting that the entire population of the island has met an untimely end. But as they sit there, they hold hands, and suddenly she turns and she goes, I can't feel my legs. But instead of being sad about it, she smiles.
Yeah.
So that's like a hint that it's over, but it's also a hint that I believe the main vampire, the angel, has met his end. Because I think anything connecting to him gets reversed if he dies.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. So, gentlemen, in the end, we'll start with Mr. Walter Ross. What's your overall opinion of Midnight Mass?
Well, I have to be honest, you know, I didn't think I was going to embrace this as much as I did. As I said before, when any of you of the group, you know, whether it be the Mel Tavern, you know, Sci-Fi Society, or even Entertainment Headquarters, you know, when you submit something to either of us, you feel like, okay, they suggested it. I'll take it in. You know, I might not like it as much as they did, but I'll give it a shot. You know, I mean, they say it's pretty good. Okay, I'll express your opinion about it. You know, and I'll be you know, truthful if I do not like it. You know, because some of you have suggested some things that I truly didn't like. I didn't even enjoy it. You know, but this one, I had to say, took me by surprise. The first 3 episodes, as you said, you know, they I ain't gonna say lagging, they just a slow burn. But they do have a lot of information. There's a lot of dialogue with it. But that dialogue helps you to transcend to what is coming at the end and what's the outcome of it. I realized that this film is just what it is, a beautiful take on what, as I say, humanity is, you know, and what happens when you've been dealt this hand, and do you use that hand to do the best of yourself or the worst of yourself? You know?
It's there to highlight people in, you know, humanity, and shows the good side and the bad side of humanity, and basically how things can influence it in a positive or a negative way. It also shows you like the positives and the negative connotations of religion, Christianity, you know, discrimination, you know, things like that, especially with the Muslim character, how Bev immediately just put a black mark on him.
Yeah.
You know, it had all of those elements to it.
It did. It was very complex, very multi-layered structure. It's both in terms of its characters and also in terms of its subject matters that it addresses.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you said, the first three episodes are slow burn episodes, and you have to get past the third episode to get to the meat of it. And I think, like you said, there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of subtext, a lot of information about the apostles, about religion, about different, interpretations of faith in the Bible, and it's all there laying layers into the story for what is later to come. That builds up to the final, and there's a
But I think you need,
redemption.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I think you need that though.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe that, dialogue. If it's strenuous dialogue, then you're gonna get lost. But I think this dialogue really helps you to get in tune with what's going on.
I like
The
meat.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh God. Okay. Well, hey. Well, he said it. So.
Yeah, but I
I'm
think
no
it's twofold.
vegetarian,
Yeah, but I think
and
it.
don't get us started on the vegans.
Yeah.
No, don't even go there.
No.
But yeah, I think it's twofold though, because there are some who don't sit around for a great deal of build up or exposition, especially if it's all done strenuously through dialogue.
Mhm.
But it depends on how well the dialogue is written, and also how much of the information that's given to us plays into the final act, like how it tethers all of the pieces into place before they're actually offered to us in the later episodes.
Definitely, I 100% agree. So, great show. Starts off as a slow burn, but takes you on it takes you on a ride of faith, uh, redemption. Takes you on a journey of the goods and bads of all of of a path of a person. Takes you on so many different roads. If you had to score Midnight Mass out of 10, what would you score it as, Mr. Walter Ross?
I would have to give it a. It's not necessarily a 10. I would say I'm not even gonna say really 9. I'll say like maybe. Well, see, and that's the thing. It's kind of difficult. I would just say like a 9. No, like a 8.9. I'll say like that. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the rating I would give it.
Mr. Daniel Miller.
I'd have to rate Midnight Mass a solid 8.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Great story structure, great writing in terms of both the characters and for each episode. There is a lot of build up, which does have a payoff. The problem is that it takes a very long time over the first 2 or 3
Yeah.
episodes
Mm.
for it to
And I
actually
don't
lead.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's enough to grab people to want to stick with it. I think if you do stick with it, you'll be very pleasantly surprised by the end. But
Oh,
this,
yeah.
the way social media is, the way streaming is, you get shows that if they don't grab you straight away, you don't stick with them.
No. Or you just skip to the very end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You could do that.
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else, Daniel?
Yeah, so there is great soundtrack in terms of both the hymns and also the background music that they composed for the show. The vampire design, very good, very much. I'm getting a mixture of Barlow and a little bit of Orlok from Nosferatu, but a lot more of Barlow in there. And also, yeah, there he is. Great production design. The cinematography and color palette as well are just astounding in
Yeah.
this series. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
also can't really praise the actual making of it enough. I think it's really good. If you're patient enough and you're actually interested in all of the build up and the background and how complex all of these different narratives in terms of both the characters and also the other aspects like the psychological aspects and things like the human condition, questions and perceptions of faith, then absolutely go for it. Yes, you're right, it's not going to be for everyone, but
Mm-hmm.
you may be surprised if you give it a chance. Just saying that.
So we'll get a good recommendation from the Professor Daniel Miller. So as for myself, I've thoroughly enjoyed this show. As you know, I am a vampire nut. I like, vampire lore. I like more the old school gothic type vampire. But for me, I love this because it had underlines of that kind of gothic mythology to it, mixed in with, religion and religious teachings. And like I said before, it's all about taking a certain subject matter and seeing the positives, the negatives, how a person interprets them from themselves and how they use it.
I have one extra
and
thing. Oh, sorry, Kevin.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, one extra thing I liked is that there's not a great deal about the origins of the angel. Like, I don't know how long it's been in that cave for. It's probably been centuries or millennia. We don't even know if there's any more of them in that cave or scattered elsewhere across the world. So
Yeah,
that's completely
yeah,
open to question, which is good.
yeah. That's like a mystery that's not solved, and I guess it's left open-ended if there is more. Another thing I will say is if you are a fan of Mike Flanagan and you enjoy his work, you enjoy his writing, you enjoy his directing, this will not disappoint, but I will say it has a different feel to what he's used to doing. And because of that reason, I personally enjoyed it, but I don't know if everyone would stick with it. I think this, like you mentioned, for a certain audience. So if I had to rate it, I'm going to give this 7 out of 10.
Okay.
But I think that's a fair rating. I think you've all been great. You've all enjoyed it. I'm glad that I recommended this show and you got to see different elements of it. But let's talk about what is coming up on the entertainment headquarters. So tomorrow, I'm going to be doing an unboxing video for something I'm very much looking forward for everybody to see. Outside of that, I will at some point doing this week my top 10 Western films, which I was meant to do the other day, but things happened and I ended up getting sidetracked. So that's coming this week. We then on Friday the 30th, me and DJ Anubis will be doing the next retro classic movie show, and we will be talking about The 13th Warrior with Antonio Banderas. And then, of course, we'll have another live coming on Saturday, the 31st at 10 p.m. UK time. It'll be 2 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. We have a Kaiju Connections review, and it is The Giant Behemoth. So a little bit coming from the entertainment headquarters. But let's turn it over to Mr. Walter Ross. Is there anything coming to your channel?
Nothing comes to my channel yet. I'm believe it or not, I mean, I'll say it here. I meant to do it earlier, but I just like everything else, got sidetracked. Been meaning to get a laptop so I can start doing streaming videos myself, and to kind of enhance my discussions of certain films and subjects and other stuff, and inviting wonderful individuals like you on there, But until then, it'll happen. But I mean, I have to get the equipment to do that. But for this week, I will be attending. Since I'm attending this one, I'm going to be attending Sci-Fi Society's Sci-Fi Century's take on talking about the show Castlevania Nocturne with DJ Anubis and who's the other person? Gojira 851. That's coming up this Wednesday. And
I'll be watching that live.
Yes, we're going to be doing it. We're going to be doing it live. We'll do it live. So we're going to be doing that. And of course, I will be attending with you guys for the Giant Behemoth, which I cannot wait to do. I want to do that so much. I mean, it's a better film than I thought it was. It's just real short. You know, I guess I wanted more out of it, but you know, we'll talk about it when we get there.
That is up to you, Tony, because it's your birthday, it's your stream. So would you like these gentlemen to be involved
I
if
wouldn't
they
mind
are
attending.
available?
Mhm.
So basically, Mr. Tony at the Dead, it's his birthday in February, and he is wanting to do a Into the Darkness review on a handful of the Dead movies. So Return of the Living Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Diary of the Living Dead. I can't remember all the films he's chosen because the fucker keeps changing his mind.
Well, he's just about dead people, basically. What he's
So that is his choice. It's a birthday special for him, and if he would like you two guys to be a part in that, then you're more than welcome to join with.
Hopefully, I'm available then. If that's the case,
They are invited as long as they watch the movies.
oh, but I think the majority of what Kevin mentioned I've seen, but I mean, it's you know, if you don't have Return of the Living Dead in there, 1985, I might not join it. So, but anyway.
Right, Mr. Daniel Miller, what is coming to your channel?
What is coming indeed? I have started to get back into creative writing again, and I've also decided to narrate some of the writings I have been working on over the past few days. So they're going to be doing some audio work as well as the fiction writing. In addition, I've also started illustrating. I mean, I've been doing drawings for as long as I can remember, but this time I've actually started doing a time lapse of an illustration. I've decided to make poster size. If you follow me on socials, on my social medias, then you would have seen the sneak peek I dropped earlier. If you haven't, then do keep waiting, because it's going to be a very big surprise.
That's that. I'm looking forward to that one. So if you do not know, I will put a link in the subscription box below for Mr. Walter Ross's YouTube channel, and of course Mr. Daniel Miller's Dan Filament channel. And as you see, you can follow these guys on their social medias. But this has been the Entertainment Headquarters. This has been Television Chronicles, where you've just reviewed Midnight Mass. There will be more television reviews coming up soon, including a one with Mr. Tony of the Dead. We are going to be reviewing Nautilus. And of course, after that, I think me and Mr. DJ Anubis are going to be reviewing Cobra Kai Season 6. So, more Television Chronicles coming your way. But until then, from me, from my amazing guest, we'll catch us all at the next one.